Hello, friends, and welcome to Rise Up in Real Estate, where we are on a quest. We are looking for the extra in the ordinary. And I'm Tad Fulford, and I will be your host on this journey where we will take an honest look at what makes ordinary people extraordinary. Exactly how can we be extra in our personal and our professional lives? In this season of the Rise Up in Real Estate adventure, there will be a monthly rhythm, meaning each month we will have 4 unique episodes. In one episode, we'll tackle a pressing current real estate industry thought. In another, we will chat with a local difference maker in the real estate space. For our 3rd episode, we will host a respected national thought leader. And finally, we will have a 4th bonus and surprise episode. And in each episode, we will be digging into not only what those people think, but who those people are. Along the way, it's my hope that you'll laugh some, you'll be challenged some, you will get inspired some, and if we are lucky, maybe even figure out a way or two you can rise up in your own life and be the best human that you can be. So the challenge is, let's all rise up. Hello, Rise Up Nation. This is your host, Tad Fulford, and I'm excited to be here with you today. It is the middle of the year, the middle of 2023, and it's time for us to do some mid-year inspections. Let's see how you are doing. I mean, it's June of 2023. Can you believe it? Just a quick reminder, as you're listening to this podcast, we are a full-service real estate brokerage in coastal South Carolina. We also own a real estate, like an insurance company and a real estate property management company. So we've been doing this for about 20 years. We're in the trenches every single day. We have 6 offices, 200 agents, 4 or 5 insurance agents, staff, and a full staff at our property management where we do long-term property management. So quick advertisement about who we are, just in case you're new to the show and I haven't met you yet. My name's Tad, and I am what we call our director of vision here at our companies. And I love doing this podcast because I simply like connecting people. Sometimes it's about real estate, sometimes it's about people. Today, we are going to dive in and talk a little bit about what in the world you need to be doing mid-year. Like, I know a lot of us are thinking it is, we're halfway through. Like, you can probably remember, just like I can, a few days ago, it seems that we were doing our planning for 2023. We were trying to figure out, what is this year going to be like? We just come off of 2022 in our, in our space in real estate. We just come off of a year that was, and a couple of years that were kind of hard to define. Like, after COVID, it was just a circus. We didn't know if it was going to be closed or if we were going to be doing like what we did, but it turned out that buyers couldn't find things that they wanted. We were multiple offers was a word that we used. Short days on market. Sellers could get about whatever price they wanted. And then last year, mid-year, things kind of drastically changed and it swung back the other way. You hear people calling it a shifting market, a stalled market. Rates changed. People's attitudes changed. Consumer confidence changed. Some weird things going on in the world with the unsettlement in Russia and Ukraine, and with the stock market being all over the place. I mean, it's just a normal, Jared James says there's no such thing as a good or a bad market. It's just the market that you're in. And I appreciate that, because every day that we wake up, we're actually setting a new market every day. Like I've said this on this show before, if you're analyzing the market, like what we're going to talk about in the next few minutes, you're actually looking at the past. You're looking at something that you can't control, that it's already over. It's beyond your ability to change anything that's happened up till June of 2023. But it's nice to look at, because you can evaluate what you did to get you there, and then you can change those things. These are called indicators. I'm going to teach a class in our brokerage in a few days about leading versus lagging indicators. And leading indicators are things that you can do to predict the future. Lagging indicators are what we're going to talk about today, analyzing where you are, what you've done, how you're doing. So there's a lot of long discussion. We've done that. We've talked about that before. But today, what I want you to do is evaluate how you're doing. And I'm going to give you some recommendations on what I do mid-year. And then I'm going to make a couple of recommendations of a book, if I don't forget, that I'm reading that's changing a lot of the way that I think. and then we're going to dive into some other things. But how do you analyze 2023? Like, how do you do your mid-year checkup? I'm sure after the first quarter, if you're like most people, maybe you do this on a daily basis, which isn't a bad idea. Everything that we talked about today, you could do on a daily basis. You could actually wake up every morning and do a quick analysis of these things, or at night before you lay your head down. I think that's a little bit of overkill, and I think you probably tire yourself out very quickly. And I don't think that the things that you analyze change enough necessarily to analyze them every day in this business. But I think quarterly is not a bad idea. And here we are, end of second quarter, right? So we had January, February, March, first quarter. Then we have April, May, June, second quarter. We're just about to the end of the second quarter. It's a good time to look at a few things. And I want to encourage you first. Let's talk about things not business related, because it's easy to sit and analyze business because you can look at your numbers. You can look at pendings. And I'm talking about real estate. You can look at pendings. You can look at number of people you have in process. You can look at your whiteboard. If you have a 30, 60, 90 day board where you've got people that are on the board, on the charts coming, is that board full or empty? You can do all that. We're going to talk about that in a second. But what about personally? Let's talk about some things that we just have to be super transparent with ourselves. Back up just a second. You need to do these things that I'm talking about in the next few minutes. You need to do them in solitude, in my opinion. Maybe you play some music that motivates you, but you need to and I wouldn't do it in your office necessarily unless you can shut and lock the door and don't have any windows that look out to the lobby. But I think you need to get by yourself. That's my number one challenge for you as you analyze. Pick time block. Pick a 2-hour time block or an hour anyway on your calendar in the next 2 weeks, and sit down with yourself. Turn your cell phone. Don't even take your cell phone into the room with you. You might need to take some like printouts of what you've done so far with business so you can analyze the business part. But I want you not to have your phone, because I don't want there to be a beep or a vibration or a alert or an email or anything to come across to you that will distract you, from, had to have a sip of water, what you are trying to analyze. And let's start by looking at the personal side of it. Number one, how do you feel? Like, seriously, how do you feel? Let's talk about physically for a second. How are you doing with your diet? How are you doing with your exercise? How are you doing with your rest? How are you doing with your time off? I'm talking slow because I'm hoping that you are writing these things down, because everything I talk about from here forward, it doesn't matter if you don't have your health, physical and mental health. If you don't have your physical health, meaning you're not here, your business doesn't matter, right? You're not around. If you're in the hospital, your business isn't going to matter because you're not healthy. So analyze, how have you done the first 6 months of this year? And this is not a guilt thing. Like, it's not, you don't need to beat yourself up over this. You don't need to dwell, because like I said a moment ago, these are, and I'm talking to myself. These are things in your past, right? These are things you cannot go back and change. You cannot go back and recommit for February of 2023 that you're going to get back in the gym. You can't, because it's past. You need to analyze how you did. And I'm being transparent. Mandy and I had a rough second half. She had a rough second half of the pregnancy. I made some decisions to try to do the best I could I didn't do a fantastic job, but I did the best I could to pick up the slack, so that she could, so she could take care of what she needed to take care of. It was survival at its finest for the last few months of our pregnancy. And then after having a baby, obviously it's a whole different landscape. So Grady's about 5 months old now, and we're getting our feet underneath us. But for the last, let's just say last 7 or 8 months, my personal evaluation of myself is I haven't done so good physically. I have not been in the gym as much as I was. I have not eaten as well as I had. I have not rested as well. I have not taken downtime as much as I should. I haven't been outside getting fresh air as much as I should in the sunshine. So I'm going to make some changes. I already have made a change today. For example, I didn't do one thing that I've been doing regularly, a bad habit that I've been doing regularly for some time. I didn't do it today, and I just had to. It was hard, but I had to make a decision not to. And I'm trying to turn this ship. We talk about this sometimes, like a changing things like your health and your business and your associations. It's like turning a giant cruise ship around. If you decided you're on let's say you're on a Carnival cruise ship and you're going in the ocean, you're going towards your destination, and the captain decides he needs to go back and pick up his wallet because he forgot it back at port, which would never happen, by the way. But if he had to turn the boat around, it doesn't happen in an instant. Matter of fact, those big cruise ships I've heard reports of, in a calm seas with a regular tide, it takes about a mile for a cruise ship to make a turnaround. So that's what this is about for me. It's like making small steps and just committing that I'm not going to dwell on the past. I'm going to look to the future, and I'm going to make some changes. So I've already started doing that. So how have you done? By the way, do you have physical fitness goals? Do you have standards that you want to adhere to, and how did you set those? Did society, now gosh, there's so many topics here. Did society set those for you? Do you look at the wrong magazines or watch the wrong television shows or listen to the wrong input when you're evaluating what you should look like or feel like or eat or drink? I think you need to get a little bit more serious about how you make those decisions for yourself. Like, just decide that you're going to set standards for your life. Like, what do you want to look like? What do you want to feel like? And then find resources that can get you there. That's what I'm trying to do. I am 54 years old. Comparing myself, if I just look up 54-year-old fitness and I get images on Google, I'm going to be depressed because all those people are not me. I have to set my own standards. There's some things that are kind of foundational that we need to talk about in physical fitness and physical health, like rest. You need to analyze, and you need to get a certain amount of rest. You need to have a certain amount of time off. Everybody admits that. Everybody agrees with that. You need to have a certain amount of sunshine and fresh air. Everybody agrees with that. So you need to look at those things. Are you doing those things at a minimum? And then diet is a whole nother thing to attack, and exercise is a whole nother thing to attack. Then you can even go as far as chiropractic. You can go to massage. You can go to lots of things. Acupuncture, preventive medicine, holistic medicine, regular appointments with your doctors. Evaluate how you're doing. It's June. You can't evaluate this when it's too late. When it's too late, it's too late. So talk about it and think about it now. I want to make a recommendation to you. This will be challenging. I just held this up you can't see this book. I've got this book in my hand. I'm about 100 pages into a book that was recommended to me. That is a challenging book to read, but I think it's an interesting concept that needs to be addressed and talked about. And I might do a further podcast on this book, but I want to just mention it to you if any of you have the interest. It talks about disease, and it breaks disease down to very simple forms, and talks about it in a way that and I'm 100 out of 400 pages, so I'm only a quarter of the way through the book, but I think it would be something that you would enjoy if you want. I went on Amazon and ordered it. It's called Never Be Sick Again. Health is a choice. Learn how to choose it. And the author's name, so I think if you look up on Amazon, I'll put a link to this, by the way, in my show notes, but Never Be Sick Again by Raymond Francis. And I think this book was written in like 2004. So it's dated a tad bit, but I don't think the concepts are. And it's really changing. Very challenging. Quite frankly, read it on the airplane back from a trip yesterday and read the 100 pages. And it's the reason that I didn't stop and get what I normally stop and get. I'm not going to go into I don't want to convict someone over what they do in the mornings. But for me, I made a decision not to do something based on partly on what I read in that book. So physical, how are you doing physically? Look at that and be honest with yourself, and don't dwell. Don't feel guilty. Don't mope. Or maybe do those things, but do them and then move on. Like, maybe I've heard this before, have a 5-minute pity party. Like, for me, take my shirt off, stand in front of the mirror, and just be disappointed for 5 minutes and then move on. Mel Robbins talks about this. You just got to You got to let yourself feel it and then move on. Maybe 5 minutes is too much for me to look at myself in the mirror with no shirt on, but I'm just being as blunt and transparent as I can be with you guys with what I struggle with. And I hope that helps you. Um, but don't dwell on it. Like, decide today to make a difference. You've heard this. Is this just going to be one day, or is it going to be day one for you? And for me, it's day one. And I'm sure I'll fail again, but I'm going to work hard to make some changes. So how are you doing physically? That's question number one. Analyze it, be honest with yourself, don't dwell, and move forward. If you need help making some plans, I can help you with that. Love to meet and talk about it. We can make some small plans. Typically, in my experience, when somebody tries to make their own changes with physical fitness, like they try to make the decision to do it and they try to make a plan, they overdo it. They change too many things and they can't stick to it. It's like New Year's resolutions. It just becomes, you're too idealistic. In my opinion, you need to find a trainer. In my opinion, you need to find a consultant that you can meet with, that they will set you on a path. It's what I've done. Set you on a path to get you in the right place, and it'll help you tremendously for sure. So that's number one, physical fitness. How are you doing now? This is another one that last month was Mental Health Awareness Month. And this is a big question for right now in our world. How are you doing mentally? Ask yourself that question. Do you feel good most days, depressed most days, tired most days, hopeless, hopeful, patient, impatient? How are you doing? And this is why you need to be by yourself. And I would have a notepad out. I would just be writing things down, like brainstorm. How are you? How are you feeling? Mental health is a real thing, especially in our business, man. We get beat up all the time. We are so results minded. We are so up and down because we get a big closing and then we don't have anything for a while. And we get a client that's loyal and then we have one that's not loyal. It's a roller coaster of emotions, but you need to ask yourself, how are you doing? You can't let yourself be unhealthy mentally, right? And I'm lucky. Excuse me, I'll have sips of water as I rant on. When I'm by myself, my throat gets dry. I'm lucky. I don't know if it's genetics, way my parents were raised, if it was what I eat. I don't know. I don't often feel depressed. I don't often feel hopeless or pessimistic. I often feel optimistic. I often feel hopeful. I often feel excited about the day and the future. But I'm realistic to know that not everyone's like that. And I know that some of you struggle quite a bit with mental health, and your self-image is low, and I do struggle with that. Your outlook on life is depressing. Like you just feel like America, for example, has taken a turn, or you feel like the economy has taken an unrecoverable turn, or the thing in Ukraine just wears on you so much. But this is a good time of year to ask yourself, how am I doing emotionally? And maybe rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. And the way you know this is, where's your head most of the time during the day? Like, and when you're by yourself, it's a good one. When you're in the car, do you feel excited? Do you feel down? Do you need something from the outside to happen to you in order for you to feel excited? Or does it happen can you excite yourself, for example? Can you pick yourself up? You need to ask yourself these questions. In my opinion, again, like I did with physical fitness, with mental fitness, you have to have some accountability. You have to have someone to hold you to a standard. You have to have someone to tell you the truths about you. Like, there's a lot of incredible truths about yourself that are like, you were fearfully and wonderfully made, if you believe the Bible. Like, you were made in God's image and you were created for a purpose. But as I say those things, if you don't hear them on a regular basis, it's easy not to believe them, right? It's easy to dwell on the fact that you feel like a failure, or you feel like you're not doing enough, or your relationships are struggling, or your physical health can affect your mental health. So I think you need accountability in this way. Counseling is fine. If you need to go to counseling, it's okay. Did you hear me? Like, that's what's there for. I mean, we go to the gym to work on our physical body. We have a trainer that helps us with our physical body. But what about your mental state? Do you have someone helping you, training you? I don't know why there's such a stigma about mental health and about asking for help and about talking to a therapist or a counselor or an accountability group about how you're feeling. I think that we need to get real with ourselves, especially in this business. I mean, we're trying to be parents, we're trying to be kids, we're trying to be business owners. We're trying to be consultants. We're trying to be therapists for everyone else. And yet we're trying to do it on our own. What I have found over time is eventually you will give out. Eventually the things that you're given, like you have on the insides, you'll give them all away. Like you'll be done with it and you'll give out. And if you're not continually filling up your tank, I've heard it described that way. Like it's a gas, your energy is a gas tank. And when it runs out of gas, you better be going to the gas station to get it filled up. And how do you do that? Where do you go? Who do you talk to? Right. Because if you're empty, you won't be able to give anything. That's why I'm a lifetime learner. That's why I love to read. I love to study, because I want my tank to continually be full so that I can help those around me, and that I can feel full and healthy for those. So how's your mental health? And this is another one you just have to be honest with yourself, in my opinion. You have to not be afraid to speak up. We've all known those people that were afraid to speak up. Robin Williams was afraid to speak up. Twitch was afraid to speak up. You know people in your own personal life that were afraid to speak up because of the stigma of it's not okay to not be okay. But don't do that. Don't be that person. You're hearing me say it out loud. I'm here to help you. Where there's a whole community here at Rise Up Nation that is here to help you. All you have to do is ask. You can find my cell phone number, email, and in the show notes, and you can reach right out and we'll help you. So.
If you live or own property along the coast of South Carolina, you probably need insurance. We Insure Advocates is a locally owned independent agency with industry-leading service support. Our team of customer-centric agents can explain your coverage options and help you craft an insurance program that fits your needs and budget. Data-driven for better value, people-led for better service. That's the difference of we. For all of your property insurance needs, please find us at weinsureadvocates.com or call us at
843-491-6990. Physical fitness, mental fitness, and now I'll just briefly mention another two other ones that I want you to dig into, but I'm not going to talk about as much for obvious reasons. How's your social fitness? Like, do you have any social interaction with other humans? Do you have girlfriends, guy friends that you hang out with? Do you have social groups that you're a part of? I would recommend social groups outside of the real estate realm. Do you play sports? Do you have hobbies? Like, what's your social fitness? Don't be one dimensional. Like, what I'm getting at is don't just be a business person. Be a physical person, be a mental person, be a social person. And the last one that I'll mention before we talk briefly about business is, how are you spiritually? So you're taking your temperature mid-year. You've taken it physically, you've taken it mentally, you've taken it socially, and now you're going to take it spiritually. Are you, and I'm not going to tell you what spiritual path to take, as long as it's legal and ethical and you're helping humans, I'm good with it for you. I have my own opinions that I would happily share, but you need to be, is there a higher being? Is there not? Like, for you, decide that for yourself. And I won't go into if there's not. I don't really know that path, but where do you get your peace from? Where do you get your true direction, your true purpose? Do you go to church? Do you go to synagogue? Do you go to meditation? Do you go to whatever? But what's your spiritual health right now in the middle of this year? Sometimes when things are status quo, mediocre, like they've been in business, we drift away or we drift towards the spiritual realm. The spiritual part for me is important, and I won't dwell on it, but it's just so important because it allows me to know that I'm being watched over, taken care of, blessed. And I like to just give my business over to a higher power and make sure that I'm acting the right way, making the right decisions, talking to people the right way, and that kind of thing. So physical, mental, social, and mental could be emotional, right? Social and spiritual. Do the checkup. if you don't do those 4 checkups, I wouldn't just do business planning. I wouldn't just sit down and go, how's my business? Because I believe all 4 of those things that we just talked about are so related to the way that we perform in our job, in our career. How you're doing physically, how you're doing mentally, how you're doing emotionally, and how you're doing socially. And I've talked about this, but time off is key in all of those areas. You've got to have some downtime. We're going on vacation next week, and I can't wait to just not have real access to stuff. And really haven't done that in over 2 years, where it's just been the kids and us. And I can't wait to do that. It is going to take me a minute to unplug. But once I do get unplugged, I can't wait to plug in to the things that really matter. So how are you doing with those 4 areas? Finally, business. This will be quick, right? So because it's easy to do, and it becomes easier over time too, as you keep good records. Like you should be able to, and you should have already printed, and you do this probably on a daily or weekly or quarterly at least basis. Where are you with closings? And I'm talking real estate space. Where are you with pendings? Where are you with 30, 60, 90? Like, what do you have coming? Which we all know that pending and coming are, or upcoming, are not guaranteed. Even pending's not guaranteed, right? So this is all what our pipeline is. And then the 4th thing I would look at is, how's your database being tended to? Both your prospect database and your past advocate database, like your past clients, people you've done business with. How is that being incubated and nurtured? Let's take a look, and an honest look at all of those things. And if I were you, comparing, this is what we're doing as a company and I'm doing personally, I would not compare those numbers to, I'd compare them to 2019. I wouldn't compare them to 20, 21, or 22, personally. I just think there was too many outliers. There's always outliers, but COVID made extreme outliers. And I think if you compare yourself to 20, 21, 22, you're likely going to get discouraged. I have heard a lot of people say their business is better than 22, but I feel like that's just not a healthy comparison. Over my last year of looking into it, I think 19 is where you compare yourself to. But closings, pendings, and then how are you treating your database? And be honest, are you treating those people better than they could be treated with, because they're in other databases? I'm talking about leads or your database. They're in other people's database, and you need to make sure that you're treating them in such a way that you won't be outdone. Same with your past advocates. I'm gonna call them your past advocates, people you've gone to the closing table with. If you're not treating them, they're in other people's databases. I don't know how to say it other than just to say it, but you might have a client you think, it might be a family member that you think will never leave you. Would be willing to bet there's people trying to get them in their database, in their web of influence. So how are you doing with your past advocates' care? I did a video last week called "Buy Lunch, Not Leads," and I love that concept. How much money and time are you spending on that circle? So that's the analysis. You look at those things right now in the middle of 2023, and you say, how am I doing? Okay. Now, compare them to 2019, or compare them to your goals because of the year, or your what you wanted to accomplish this year, because probably what you did is you set your goals for 2023 based on your past performance, right? And so how are you doing based on your goals? So we're midway through the year, and maybe you have to look to seasonal changes. Maybe you don't, in your market, you don't do much business in the beginning of the year. You do a lot in the end of the year. So I don't know those facts. It might not be like June is the halfway mark for you. If you live in Florida, you might not do a lot of business from now till the end of the year because of the heat. I don't know. But for me, just how are you doing with your goals? What are your pendings? I mean, how many have you closed so far? How does that relate to what your total closing was supposed to be? How many pendings? Count those as closings and see how does that get us close to our goal. And then what's your activity like? And remember, you got to outshine everyone else. You got to really, I think you got to dig in there. You got to be face to face with those people. You have to be, because if they're not getting the best service from you, they're going to get it from someone else. But that's a whole nother podcast. So how are you doing? Now, here's the interesting thing, like we talked about, you can't turn this cruise ship around right now. You cannot, and I wouldn't even encourage you to do this. You can't make drastic changes after you analyze numbers and expect it to make a difference next quarter. It's just not going to. I guess there might be a few examples of things, like if you've stopped doing social media and you recognize that you're not getting you're getting less business because you stop. This is a terrible example, but you stopped using social media, then you need to start it again. Like that kind of a change is obvious. But in general, my encouragement would be to you, is don't make drastic changes. Stay the course. Don't give up. Don't get discouraged. Don't quit. And conversely, if you've had extreme results, which I'm hearing that from a lot of people right now, that you're actually doing better than you did last year, or better than you did in 21. I don't know if that's always the case, but in some cases I hear that. Don't slow down. Keep the foot on the gas. And as long as you're taking care of yourself, keep the foot on the gas and keep doing what you need to do in order to see your year. Like if you're almost at your yearly goal, don't stop unless you want to. Like, I think this is a cool thing I heard from Q, from Mississippi. I think that's how you say it. In Memphis. These guys do incredible business, but Q is like, if I get my points for the day, I'm taking the rest of the day off. And I think you can look at it from that perspective. If you reach your goal, somebody told me yesterday, if I get this closing, I might take the rest of the year off. I think that's healthy, but remember, the activities that you do today turn into business tomorrow. So if you shut prospecting down, you're going to see those results later. So just be aware of that. If you're going to take some time off from taking clients, saying yes, maybe you just refer people out. You don't put them in your car, or you don't go to their living rooms anymore. You're going to refer those people out. I think that's fine, but don't stop prospecting if you expect 2024 to be any good. That's just a neat little caveat there. So that's how you analyze your business. And I've spent a lot of time talking about mental, emotional, social, and the other things today, and spiritual, because I want you to really take a deep look at those. But in your business, how are you doing? And remember that you're evaluating a past market, and your activities today will set the future market. So analyze, where did my closings come from already in 2023? What sector of, what pillar of business, where did they come from? And where are my pendings coming from? And where are my hot leads? Like my 30, 60, 90 day board that I've got coming. Who are those people? How did I generate those? Where did they come from? Maybe you bought those leads. Maybe you did open houses and they're turning into something. Maybe you're farming a neighborhood, or maybe you're doing FSBOs, or maybe you're working your past advocates incredibly well. Evaluate it, and then double down where you're great and keep pushing on where you're not. And if something is giving you zero results, analyze why. Like Lori White told me one time that she'd done a postcard mailing for a few months and it wasn't getting any traction. And she said, is that a good indication that it won't work? And I said, not really. There are some pillars of business, and this, maybe they're all this way, that longevity wins, not giving up wins. Video is this way. Social media is this way. You can't show up every once in a while in people's mailboxes, or in their minds, or in their homes. You have to be there on a very regular basis to win. So how are you doing mid-year? Now, let's get on it. Let's get after it the second half of the year. Maybe you need to recommit in some areas. Maybe you just need to pat yourself on the back and be proud that you've done incredibly well in the right areas. Ignore the media, ignore the trends that you're hearing from people that don't know what they're talking about. Get your information, your analytics from people that know what they're talking about, that are in the trenches every day. Don't listen to people that have never sold a home, that have never been in our business, that have never walked into living rooms and sat in cars. And I'm talking about the media. Like you don't let Lester Holt dictate the second half of your 2023. Now, after you make these analytics and you leave that quietness of that room, you got to have some goals. I'm hoping the goals will be the same as they were in the beginning of the year, but maybe and likely the pillars of business that you've committed to And by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, let's chat. But this is how we talk at our brokerage. The pillars of business that you've committed to, if they're not providing results, in most cases, it's probably our commitment to those pillars, not the pillar. It's probably the regularity of your phone calling, or your commitment to doing regular open houses or prospecting or sending the postcards. Usually it's not the pillar. Usually it's your commitment to it. So maybe going forward, after you've done these analytics, find an accountability partner, talk with that person and say, here's my new commitment for the second half of the year, and go do it. Recommit yourself, dig in deeper. And my prayer for you, my hope for you, is that you get to live exactly you know this about me, you get to live exactly the life that you want to live. And the business that you're building helps you do that. And hopefully over time, you get to do that more effectively and efficiently so that you can work less and enjoy more. Rise Up Nation, this has been fun chatting with you about this. If you have further questions about any of this, my phone number's here. I would love nothing more than to have coffee with all of you one at a time and sit down and chat about these things. And let's see if we can become the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be. We will talk to you guys very soon.
Well, hey, that's a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Rise Up in Real Estate. If you liked hanging out with us today, please find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Rise Up in Real Estate. Also, follow us right now on your favorite podcast host to hear more episodes. We really appreciate you spending some of your time with us. And until next time, let's do each other a favor and all help each other rise up.